Cynthia Roseman. I am the founder and CEO of Women of Worth Global Ministry here in Greenwood, South Carolina.
Hello, my name is Stacey Martin and I am the moderator. As you all know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness and Domestic Violence Month. We would like to celebrate, honor, and bring awareness to you all.
Today we have some ladies who are going to share their testimony with you all, as well as a loved one who's going to share his testimony in honor of his sister.
My name is Alice Jones, and I'm here today to just share a brief testimony about my sister Jackie Stewart, who's a two-time breast cancer survivor. Jackie was diagnosed the first time in 2001. And when she was diagnosed in 2001, she had two small children, a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. And this was very hard for her. But the thing about it was that she was at work and they wanted her to get an insurance policy for cancer. And she kept saying no, but she said it just wouldn't rest well with her. And she did get the policy. And afterwards, she had a breast exam. Breast exam was fine. But that November, she started to have problems with her breast, and her breast, started to bleed. When she went to the doctor, she had to have a radical mastectomy, and which was very hard for her because she said, she felt like a part of her was missing and she didn't feel whole or complete. But the great thing about it, she said she was in a loving church environment and as well as her job. She had an environment, she was in a working environment where there were women that loved on her and, prayed for her and took care of her and took care of her family. And for 18 years, she was cancer-free, no problems, no issue. Was planning a wedding, her daughter's wedding. And again, she started to have bleeding. Went back to the doctor and was diagnosed again for the second time with breast cancer. And this was in 2019, again in the month of November. They wanted to do the surgery, but she just refused to do the surgery and interfere with her planning her daughter's wedding. She told them they could get back with her after the wedding. Also during that time, her husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And she went through her treatments, and so far she has been doing well. And the thing about it is her faith never wavered. And I just saw her to be a very strong woman. And, we would pray together, we would talk about it, but she never gave up. And she just helped me to be the woman that I am today and to realize that with God's help and with prayer, that you can overcome anything. And her motto is always that with God, you can survive. So just to tell anyone, if you're going through with breast cancer or any type of cancer, know that with God, you can make it through. I am a woman of worth. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stacey Martin, and I'm doing a testimony in honor of my sister Trudy Loudon. She passed away from breast cancer in 2005 at the age of 35 years old. When my sister came to me and first told me she was going to the doctor, we didn't know what for as she was getting tested for different things. When she told me it was breast cancer, where my family called us together and told us it was breast cancer, I really didn't make a big deal out of it because she was the first person that I knew personally that had breast cancer. Didn't know anybody that had breast cancer that didn't make it through, so I didn't think it was a big deal. Well, time went on, tests came on, and she started she started chemo, and she started getting weak, and it was going from day to day, up days, down days. And I still was like, oh well, this is something we can beat. Turned my eye on it, I took her to Greenville to the doctor one day, and she said, stop by GB Shoes, I want to buy me a new pair of shoes. My sister loves to dress, she loves shoes. She didn't find anything else she wanted. She came out. This guy said, my car's across town out of gas. Can you help me? I had money in my pocket. I said, I don't have anything to give you because I thought he was just beating out for us. She had $35 to her name, which she wanted to buy shoes with. She gave me the whole $35, the whole $35. We got in my car, proceeded to pull off. She told me, she said, no matter what you're going through, somebody's going through something worse than you are. That's when I really knew it was real. Finished chemo, she lost her hair, bought her wigs, finished chemo, she started looking up again. Then she went down, just up and down. Turns for the better, turns for the worse. Took her to the doctor one day and the doctor came in and told me, he said, prepare yourself to send her home. I said, doctor, how do I prepare myself to get rid of my loved one? My sister and I was very, very close. How do I prepare myself for this? I don't know what to do. So, tried to live with that. Got through that part. A few months later, she passed away. Got through that part. But before she passed, I was working at Monsanto. She was working at National Textile. I worked swing shifts, she worked straight days. We text each other every day, text each other. Hey beautiful, how you doing? Hey good looking, hey my chocolate drop, every day. So after she passed away, I picked up my phone several times to text her. I always stopped myself. She's not here anymore. Went on about my life. One day I picked up my phone up to text her and asked her to send the text. And that's when it really hit me. I started going through the bereavement cycles all over again. And my sister passed away June the 4th, 2005, on her baby's birthday. After my niece accepted the fact that her mom was gone, she adopted me as her dad. And to this day, I try to do everything I can to keep her memory alive for her daughter, my niece, my daughter. My name is Stacey Martin, and I support Women of Worth.
Hey, my name is Tracy McIntyre, and I am a breast cancer survivor. Today I come to you at the age of 28. I was diagnosed with breast cancer with no family history, which led into a surgery, a radical mastectomy, basically 3 surgeries into one. An 8-hour surgery that led into a 12-hour surgery, and that led me into ICU, where my family was called in because I faced death. And I was told that I had lost all color, and I was at a point that I was not even able to voice. But at that time, I remember telling the Lord, if you bring me out of this, I'll be a testimony. When I came out, I started my journey of surgeries, more surgeries, chemotherapy that led to me with having no hair, radiation that led to me being burned, Zoladex injections that led me into menopause, and eventually ended up at a barren state without the ability to no longer have children. This led me into a place of an emotional roller coaster. It is good, it is bad, and some of it is even ugly, but God. On that emotional roller coaster, I dealt with low self-esteem, I dealt with depression, and I dealt with suicidal thoughts. And it was just that one day that I found out, that I thought at least, that I was alone. And I was on the back side of a road, riding, trying to find a tree to take my life. But that's when I found that I wasn't alone, but God was with me. God began to show me the face of my son, and I pulled over on the side of the road. I started off with a mild, thank you Jesus, but I ended up with a radical hallelujah. And today, I say that I birthed a taught-out praise, a sacrificial praise that I made up in my mind that no matter what it looked like, no matter what was going on around me, I chose to give him praise. And for that, I live. For that, I rise. For that, I am a survivor. I'm a 21-year cancer-free survivor, and I am a woman of worth.
Hi, my name is Rachel Blair, and I'm a 10-year breast cancer survivor. I found a lump in my breast in the year of 2010. I was having some other difficulties, female problems, and a couple of girls from work were teasing me and saying, "Oh, you must be pregnant." And I said, "Oh no, I know God ain't did that to me at this age." And so one of them said, "Rachel, have you checked your breast?" And mind you, I have never checked my breast before then. So I know now that self-examination is the key. So I had my mammogram, and I got the letter 2 weeks later that says that we'll see you next year, that everything came clear. But 2 weeks after I received that letter, I found a lump in my breast in the shower, doing my own breast examination. And I told my husband about it, and he said, "Well, baby, it's probably not nothing." And I said, "Well, I don't think so. It wasn't there earlier." So I called my doctor, my gynecologist, and the next day he told me to come in immediately. And he did a breast exam and sent me immediately over to the imaging center where they did a diagnostic test. And from there, they sent me straight over to the vascular center to see a breast surgeon. She scheduled a biopsy for me to come back in the next day, and I did. And I kind of briefly spoke to her because I was scared at the time because I didn't want to have breast cancer anyway, or cancer of any kind. So I talked with her and asked her some questions, and she made me feel very comfortable about what she was doing. And she told me she did a needle biopsy, and she told me that she was letting me know about a week. So meanwhile, I had to go to a conference in Miami, Florida for my job for finances. And while I was there, she told me just wait until I got back and she would let me know. But nosy me, I had to know before time. So on that Tuesday, it was Tuesday or Wednesday, one of those days, I called the office and she answered, and she told me it was cancerous. At the time, I didn't realize, or I don't think it really hit me, because I knew she said it was cancerous, but I didn't know to the extent of it. So I went on back to the conference and I told the people at the conference, and they looked at me kind of like, you still here? But I went on, and the next day, I think must have been that Wednesday, so Thursday I flew out. Well, no, excuse me, let me back up. I called my husband first, and I could tell by his voice he was going down. I called all my children, and I called my family, my siblings and my parents, and they all went down too. Meanwhile, I'm still standing strong because I really, at that time, I didn't know or just didn't realize, it didn't hit me. I didn't see the seriousness of it. But when I got to her office and she told me what I had, and I had to have immediate surgery because it was aggressive, and I really still didn't hit me. When it hit me, it was when I was laying on the table when she was actually getting ready to do the surgery. And that's when I knew that, Rachel, you have breast cancer. And that's when I immediately just went into everything. So I did the breast, had a lumpectomy. And she told me she thinks she had it all out because I found it so early. And so she sent me on to a cancer oncologist and also to a radiologist oncologist. When I went to the cancer oncologist, she was from Czechoslovakia, and she strongly recommended that I have 4 rounds of chemo. And I told her I didn't think that I needed the chemo because my doctor said she felt like she had it all out. But she continued to say she strongly recommended. But I said, I'm going to trust God on this one. And her reaction to me was, everybody trusts God, just like that. And I was like, no, she can't work on me, because anybody know me, that anybody that works on me, any physician, don't care what kind it is, they have to love God too. Because I want them to know whatever they do for me, God is using them to do it, and it's not in their own might. So anyway, so I went on, I said I'll trust God on that one. I didn't go back to see her again. I went on to see the radiologist oncologist. His name was Dr. Funky. And I'm a claustrophobic person, very claustrophobic. And I had to get in the machine. And in the machine, I couldn't stay in there because I'm claustrophobic. And he was having a little hard time because I couldn't get in it. And I told him, you was acting like your name, Funky. Because I'm claustrophobic, I can't get in the machine. So he, in turn, ordered some medications so I could get in, so they could do the pinpoint exactly where the radiation needs to be, so they won't be all over my body, pinpoint just where the breast cancer is. It was. So I went on, I had to have 35 treatments. So I went 5 days a week for 7 weeks. I left work at 3 o'clock every day. I was back at work at 4. And after my last treatment, I think that's when I realized I really had breast cancer, and it was all gone. So I'm standing here now, 10 years later, still standing strong in my faith, knowing that God has me and will continue to keep me. I am a woman of worth.
Okay, my name is Susie London Holloway. And my story began, it was 2009 when I discovered it. Well, when they discovered that I had breast cancer. I was just going for a regular mammogram, and what so happened, they just found something in my right breast. Went to the doctor, and of course he was sure that he'd be able to just get that spot out without having to cut off the whole breast. But he didn't know until after he go in. So my journey began. I only did 1 round of chemo, and I did 6 months, 5 days a week of radiation. But my journey to me was more like a nurturing thing, because even though I went through what I went through with my treatments, when I would go for my treatments every day, and I would have to sit in the waiting room waiting my turn for my treatments, and I had to sit there with other people that was going through the same thing, different types of cancer, but was going through the same thing. Some was going through more chemo than I was. And so to me, when I was there, I felt more like I was a vessel of God, because while I was there, even though I was going through what I was going through, I was praying for them. I don't know how people feel about God and if they in their belief of God. So my prayer time with them was quiet. It was to myself. It was personal. So as we sat there in waiting room waiting on our turns to get treatments, I was praying for others. I was touching them but not letting them know that I was praying for them. So I was praying for others, even though I was going through. I just saw that was my time to pray for them and let God use me to touch them and work through me. So my journey was a long one. Yes, I had hard days. Yes, there was times that I didn't want to get out of bed, but I did. But when I finally came to that door and rang that bell, it was a happy time for me, but as well as a sad, because I wasn't there to pray for them anymore. I wasn't there to lay hands on and be with the ones that were going through things that was just a little bit harder battle than mine was. But I thank God for the journey, and I thank God that He brought us through. I am a woman of worth.
My name is Vacynthia Anderson, and I want to bring awareness to GIST tumor/cancer. In 2015, I was working at a place called Fuji Films, and I remember I was actually over the people that was on the floor, and I remember we was at the time clock, and my heart was racing like really bad, and I went to take my blood pressure, and they said that my blood pressure was normal, but my heart rate was 122. And I remember talking to a nurse. I even called a nurse, and I remember her saying, baby, even if you're running, your heart rate isn't supposed to be that high. So I ended up getting off work and went to, at this time it was Dr. Free's office, but she wasn't there. I seen someone else, and the doctor tried to say that I had anxiety, which I ended up having anxiety, but that wasn't the reason my heart rate was going so fast. So when I went, he was like, it's anxiety, I'm gonna give you medicine and you'll be okay. I went home and I tried to sit, and I'm like, no, something isn't right. So I remember calling my mom and saying, like, my heart is beating fast. It really feels like it's about to come out my chest. So when I went to she was like, no, that's not right. Go to the emergency room. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So when I got there, they was like, no, your heart rate is way too fast. So they called me in the back, and my mom and husband and kid, well, at that time, just my one child, we all went to the back, and he was the doctor, I cannot remember his name, came in and he looked in my eyes and my lips, and I remember him turning to my mom and saying, hey, how does she look to you? And my mom was like, she looks fine. And he said, no, she don't. So he asked everyone to step out the room, and he came in and did a certain test that I won't say, but we ended up finding out that I was bleeding internally. Then I went to, well, at first they said, well, she's bleeding internally. We got to get her a blood transfusion first. And, you know, then I stayed in the hospital. They gave me a blood transfusion, and we just went through all those processes. And then that's when all the tests started. Dr. Green put a light down my throat, and they ended up finding out that I had a tumor. And everyone was just like, hey, it's not a big deal. We'll just, you know, we'll go through a procedure. I started seeing Dr. Thomas, and he was like, we'll go through a procedure, you'll have surgery, and we'll remove it. And I remember saying, well, sorry. I remember saying, well, will I live until the surgery? And he said, yeah, we're just gonna do the transfusion, and it's okay. So they say it's just the size of a maybe like a golf ball. They say it's not even big at all. And I was just like, well, okay. And I remember when it was time for the surgery, my baby cried so bad to the point my mama had to take him out. And I remember saying I didn't want to die, because when it was time for me to do my surgery, my blood had dropped again. And they was like, well, we got blood on hand, don't worry about it. And I remember praying and asking God to, you know, I really didn't trust God as much until that moment, because all I had was faith. And I remember praying and saying I didn't want anybody else to raise my son. And the way he cried going out of the room, I truly thought that was going to be the last time. That was going to be the last time I seen him. So surgery came, it was a success, and we ended up finding out that the GIST tumor wasn't the size of a golf ball. It was actually more size of an orange, or like a big orange, or just something way bigger than a little golf ball. So that's when you know, they ruled it as cancerous, because it was way bigger than what they thought. And you know, the nurses and everybody was, you know, pretty nice about everything, and they cried with me, because at this time I was I can't remember, I was younger. I'm 28 now, so from there, but they cried and they was just like, I cannot believe you're going through this at this young age. But you know, I go to the doctor in the cancer center, and I have to do that for the rest of my life. But you know, they removed it. No cancer is back or will come back, and I will claim it. And I'll just say from here that I am a woman of worth.
All right, I'm Lakisha Tompkins. I am a domestic violence conqueror. Just wanted to share a little bit of my story to encourage others that even though you may go through a situation in your life, that doesn't mean that that situation will define you for the rest of your life. It was a time in my life where I didn't love myself or cherish myself enough to where I allowed myself to be in a unhealthy relationship. In that relationship, I suffered jealousy, controlling. I couldn't talk to a whole lot of people. And at the time, I found myself actually being isolated from family and friends. And I stayed in the relationship for 7 years. At that time, nobody knew what was going on. I was too embarrassed to tell anybody. But during that time, I actually lost myself. I lost my voice. So in the sequence of losing myself, I actually mentally shut down. Only thing spiritually, that's what kept me pretty much alive. Because when I did leave, I left everything. I left my home. Only thing I had was the clothes that I had on my back. And I actually moved back home with my brother, my family. For the next couple of years, I went through a very deep depression. And I thank God that I made it through that. That's why I just wanted to encourage my sisters and brothers that may be in a relationship that's not healthy. A lot of times we think that we can change people. You cannot change people. They have to have a heart to want to change. And when we think about domestic violence, a lot of times we tend to think about the physical aspect. Never was any physical abuse taking place, but domestic violence is not just the physical part. I can say spiritual because it did have a spiritual weight on me. The mental part, the verbal, the controlling. You have to be, if I come from work and it's supposed to take me 5 minutes, if I wasn't 5 minutes, then the phone calls would start. So it does it weighs you down quite a bit. But I just want to inform everybody that just the physical part, that does not define domestic violence. It's all of the things, calling you different names, isolating you from your family and friends. And like I said, you become embarrassed. So therefore you end up keeping their secret. But in the midst of losing yourself, when you do decide to leave, it's almost like a domino effect. Every part of my life actually seemed like it just fell apart. It took me years to kind of allow God to heal me to where I could forgive myself for being in that situation. Was it easy? No, it wasn't. But can it be done? Yes, it can. I'm a living witness. And the first thing that I do want to talk about is that the first thing is forgive them. Because a lot of times we try to be mad at the person. But once you forgive them and let go of that anger, you actually start to heal. It is not for them, but it's for you. You have to forgive and, forgive the other people. And most importantly, forgive yourself. And that's usually the hardest thing. That was the hardest thing for me, to actually forgive myself and realize that I am actually worth more than how I was treated, a home, the abuse that I went through. I had to learn to understand that I'm important. God said I was important, I'm a queen, and I expect to be treated that way. So if I could just encourage you, if you are in that situation, there's help out here. It's all type of organizations that can really help us and assist, that you can really trust. And if anytime I can do anything, I've been there. I know how hard it is to trust people. I know how hard it is to actually bury your soul and where you think that somebody won't judge you. That's hard to do. But I can tell you that the thing that kept me was Jesus. Not everybody else, but it was him, because a lot of times I didn't have anybody else. But it was him that kept inspiring me to keep going. Even though it looked like I was just steady falling down in a hole. Depression is it's very dark. But I do thank God that I was able to take some learning points from it. And if I could just share some of the things that helped me, I use the acronym, it's RED. I learned to release the past. I had to embrace where I am, my present. And I had to drive into my future, not looking back. It's important. You have to release that part in order to embrace where you are, in order to move forward in your life. Like I said, it's not easy, but it can be done. And I just want to just encourage you, just to take a step, just to say I need help. That's the first part. And getting to a point to where you can release that past and realize that you are a woman of worth. I, Lakisha Tompkins, am a woman of worth, and I thank God every day for him bringing me through my journey of domestic violence.
Hi, I'm Elder Cynthia Roseman. I am the founder and CEO of Women of Worth Global Ministry here in Greenwood, South Carolina. I am also a woman that has conquered domestic violence. I wanted to speak and spread awareness on today because a lot of times we sit quiet and we don't speak about it because we are afraid of what people will think. We're trying to protect a person's image. As for me, that's why I stayed quiet for so many years, because I shared a child with this person. And you want to make sure too what you say don't affect your child or your children. But you also have to have a voice. You have to find your voice and share what you have endured and what you have experienced in a relationship, in hopes that you will help another lady from going through the same thing that you have went through. When I was 15, I lost my mom, and I started dating someone that was older than I, against my father's wishes and my family's wishes. But I made a decision to date this person, and this person became violent. And I mean violent as an emotional, physical. He was abusive. Just as Lakisha stated earlier, he didn't want me to have friends. He didn't want me to hang out. Actually, he took my voice. And a lot of times we allow people to take our voice because we feel like we love them so much, or we want to be with them so much. So we don't say anything. We just be quiet. But I thank God today that I found my voice. I thank God today for every mountain He has brought me over. I give Him praise. I thank God today because He favored me. He got me out of a situation that I could have died in. I thank God today that He showed me that we teach people how to treat us. If we stay into relationships and allow people to put their hands on us, we are teaching people how to treat us. Ladies, even gentlemen, if someone is putting their hands on you, that is abuse. It's not your fault. A lot of times people put their hands on you and they say that it's your fault. You made them do it. But if someone puts their hands on you, it's not your fault. Don't stay in that relationship. If they start giving controlling signs, telling you what friends you can hang with and where you can go, do not stay in that relationship. Those are signs of domestic violence. Domestic violence is not always someone putting their hands on you. It's how they treat you, how they talk to you, how they act when they're around certain people. Today I am glad to be able to speak about my journey. I am glad to be able to say that I am free. Praise the Lord that I am free. Praise the Lord that I found my voice. Praise the Lord that He brought me out. And I encourage you ladies, if you are going through a domestic relationship, please feel free to contact me. My phone number is 864-378-1590. I am not a counselor, but I have been through this, and I can help you the best way I can to get you out of this situation, because we deserve better. We are women of worth.